Welcome to The Secret Sauce. I am your host, Kip Schubert, and this is a podcast about educators sharing their stories and how that has led them to their own secret sauce in building life-changing connections and relationships with students and staff. Here we go with episode number 6, Classroom Connections, Ways to Build Stronger Relationships with Your Students. You know, I believe classroom connection is the single most important factor in the success of students. The relationships that we, as educators, teachers, and coaches form, are the driving force for our students' desire to succeed. They are the foundation of our classrooms, our locker rooms, our schools. Each of us has our own unique way in connecting and forming these life-changing relationships. In this episode, I want to share with you 3 ways that I go about leading and loving my students to believe and discover that they are the greatest miracle in the world. 3 ways I go about building relationships that leave students feeling seen, heard, and valued. You know, the efforts that we make in connecting with our kids can be the light that they desperately need, the hope for a better future that enables them to just not dream again, but to make those dreams their reality. In the darkness, we can become comfortable, and we can fight against the light because it threatens to expose us to all the unlimited potential that we are wasting. It forces us to own our life, our situations, and pushes us onto our own road to awesome. And, you know, for me, after about 25 years of battling alcoholism, a battle that had left me homeless, it was relationships and connections that pulled me from my own dark hole. Relationships brought me into a light that opened up a life of fulfillment and purpose. It is relationships that do the same for our students, especially those living a life in the dark, void of hope. Relationships saved me, and it is why I put so much effort into doing the same now for others. Let's dive into some ideas that can help you build those dynamic, life-changing relationships with your kids, your teams, your staffs, the one you serve each and every day in your schools. First thing is journaling, and it was introduced to me in my recovery from addiction. And it was not just helpful in getting thoughts out of my own head and onto paper. It was therapeutic healing in a way that is best described, as being able to really connect with my true, authentic self. It is something that I have taken and turned into an awesome tool that allows students to begin to open and share more of their authentic self. They may just share to themselves on paper, but they usually begin to open up and begin to share with me and the rest of the class. And let me tell you how it works. So instead of bell work or do-nows, I call it the first 5. I include a simple composition notebook to be used as the journal in my classroom supply list. And here's a good hint for you. I have also reached out to the local Kiwanis clubs, and they have almost always responded with buying as many as I need for my classes. But I begin most class periods with a prompt on the whiteboard or projector screen. And again, instead of a do-now or bell work, it's called the first 5. It is a question that usually causes the students to reflect on some aspect of social-emotional learning. I sometimes tie it into whatever theme of geography we may be studying, but usually it is personal yet not intrusive. One example might be a question like this. Listening is important. We need to really listen to people instead of only hearing to respond. Who in your life do you wish would listen to you more? While I take attendance, I allow the kids some time to answer, and then I open up the floor for discussion. I ask if anyone would like to share their answer, and most often, quite a few raise their hands. My usual follow-up question is something like, why do you feel that way, or what makes you feel the way you do? The kids really take it and make it their own. They begin to share insights into their lives with the class, and it opens up the opportunity to talk about things that really matter in developing relationships and having a mindset shift towards success. In the beginning, I used more generic questions, some fun ones, to open up discussion on things of a less personal nature, and it will help you build a safe space and trust with your students that will prepare them for the questions that dive deeper in creating those classroom connections. A few things I include is I allow the students to not answer certain questions if they do not feel comfortable, but I always encourage them to try. I also do not read their journals unless they specifically ask me to. It helps in building that trust and the feeling of security they need to be able to share from their heart. It is my favorite activity that we do in my classroom, and one that has facilitated a stronger classroom connection and relationship with almost all of my students. The second tip I have for you in creating stronger relationships and stronger classroom connections is supporting students in their school activities and outside of school events. The last 2 years with the pandemic has made it really hard for us as teachers. Many of us feel stretched way too thin. We're undervalued. Of course, we've always been paid far below what we should be. So with that in mind, don't feel like you need to attend every single activity for every student. We have to maintain good boundaries and take care of us. We can't pour from an empty cup. But at the beginning of the year, I have each student fill out an index card. It has information on parent-guardian contacts, the usual stuff, but it always includes what their interests are, activities they participate in, things like that. That gives me opportunity to ask about them. I make a point to make it to ones I can, and I keep my family first, but have also used events like outdoor hockey games and recitals as family events. We make a day out of it. We go out to eat, we go shopping, we go to the park after the event, and while at the same time, I am teaching them the importance of giving back to others and building strong connections. It lets my family see what I do, and I also get to include them in why I do what I do. But the biggest impact is obvious. When you show up to these events, every single kid's face will light up. You instantly become more than just a classroom teacher. You become an adult in their life that they can trust because they see that you really care. And sometimes you are the only adult that shows up to support them. And that makes an impression on that student that can change their life. All because you gave up an hour or two of your personal time to show up for them. I encourage you to create conversations with your students that allow them to share with you what they do outside of school. Attend what you can. It makes a huge impact on that kid and creates a strong connection that usually lasts a lifetime. One word of caution for you. Never promise to attend an event and then not show up. You can break their hearts that way. I only tell them I will be there when I know that I will. If something changes, I show up and surprise them. Again, you have to do what works best for you and your family. Keep a good balance and boundaries with it. But when you can, show up. Cheer them on at their school activities and outside of school events. The last tip I have for you seems simple enough but requires a great deal of courage and self-reflection on your part. Share your story. It is the main ingredient of your own unique secret sauce. Too often, we as educators get stuck in teacher mode, and we never let the students see us as real, live humans. Of course, we have to teach content, standards, cog skills, and a higher level of thinking. But if we really want the kids to learn the things we are shooting for, then they need to see us as real, authentic people, and not just a sage on the stage at the front of the room. But how do we do that? It's far more simple than you think. First off, be yourself. Take off the mask and be you as you teach, as you coach, as you lead. It is great to have little dances and the high five deals and greeting them at the door type strategies that make students feel comfortable in our classrooms. But that is all just on the surface type stuff. Starting off the year with a slideshow about you, your family, your passions, that's awesome too. But when you allow your students to see into who their teacher really is, it becomes a powerful portal to create strong classroom connections. And here are a few simple things that you can do to begin to share your story. When you're having a great day, tell them why. When you're having a bad day, Tell them why in an appropriate manner. Let them see the highs and the lows. When you lose your cool, and we all know that we do, own it and apologize and ask for their forgiveness. That really freaks them out. I also let my students know my why, and it is posted in my room, and it says this: my why is to love and lead you to believe and discover that you are the greatest miracle in the world. There will always be times for me to share some of my personal story that led me to finding out that why, because I really didn't understand it or grasp it for the longest time. Having a 25-year battle with addiction and being homeless and losing it all left me at my rock bottom. But that is also where I recovered my true self and finally grasped that what I did, teaching and coaching, wasn't about me. It was about impacting others. Now, I can't share all the details and the ugly, painful parts of my story with middle schoolers or even high schoolers in the classroom, but I can take parts of my story and let them see that I too fail, that I too have messed up in a big way, but that they also, just like me, can overcome. The stories I share the most revolve around experiences like my parents' divorce, and that's just not near as common then as it is today. My mistakes that kept me from being able to see my daughter for almost 3 years, and my wife's battle, an ongoing battle with incurable cancer. And when I share with the kids, I get emotional, and I'm not afraid to cry, and I do. I just get real. And man, that is powerful. My students see me as a real-life human being. They know that I have been through it too, and that allows them to relate to me on a different level. It creates the strongest classroom connections that are life-changing and lifelong for us both. Pick and choose what you share with professional discernment, but share. Some details of my life are not any of their business. Some details are too graphic. For instance, I never share about my suicide attempt and being placed in suicide watch in a mental hospital. The last thing that I would want is a student to take that and glorify it and try the same. So examine your story. Find the appropriate parts and tell it. And let kids see your everyday struggles. It makes you real. They want someone authentic, transparent, and that they can trust. They want to connect. And when you do in an authentic way, their level of success will go above and beyond what you ever imagined for them. A book I was asked to read while in rehab was titled The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino, and I recommend it to anyone. It's not about addiction. It's about how each of us needs to know the greatness that is alive within us. I never believed that about myself. And after all the accolades that I had as an athlete, the awards and recognitions that I got as a teacher and a coach, I'm sure that people thought that I had it all together. But behind the scenes, I was a mess. 25 years battling alcohol ended me up in a rehab. And near the end of my addiction, I was a 6 to 7 day a week drunk with no idea of why I was even here. There was no greatness in me, only failure. I had escaped into a bottle that was filled with false hope, only leaving me more hopeless after each drunken episode. I wasn't the greatest miracle in the world. I was the greatest failure in the world. And the sad reality is, many of our students that sit in front of us every day feel this exact same way. And what saved me was the power of relationship connection. The connections of people who were real, authentic, and showed me that I could trust them with my innermost secrets and that they truly cared. I was introduced to an idea that out of 107 billion people that have ever been on this planet, and that is a boatload, that I am the only one that has ever been just like me. And that makes me the most unique creation ever created. In fact, it makes you the exact same. I began to see, because of relationships and connections, that I indeed really wasn't a failure but a miracle. The greatest one in the world. And when that hit me, I knew I had to share it. I knew there were kids who felt as lost and as hopeless as I did. And I could reach them before they went through the hell that I did. It is my why, and that experience is my favorite story to share. You have a great power, the power of choice. Choose to take a risk with things like the first 5. Create your own, but develop ways to foster real, authentic classroom connection. Choose to support them in their school events and outside of school activities. The gift of your time can be life-changing for a kid. Then choose to share your story. When the opportunity arises, and it will, share. Let your students see inside your heart. See the real you behind the mask of the educator. Sharing your story is the most powerful way to make a difference, to impact young people, and to create strong classroom connections. Thank you for listening to The Secret Sauce with Kip Schubert. I would love to connect with you. You guys can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Secret Sauce with Kip Schubert. Share out this podcast. Follow it so you don't miss an episode, and together we can cultivate that secret sauce to building life-changing relationships with our students and our staffs. If you would like to be a guest and share your story and how it has helped you develop your secret sauce, please reach out to me, message me. I would love to talk with you about scheduling you on the show. So continue to share your story, create connections, create relationships, and create a school culture that is life-changing. And always remember, you are the greatest miracle in the world. Until next time.